All right, I want to bring in, if we can here, Lieutenant Steve Hauck. Steve, good morning.
Morning, Bill.
So this is something that we have talked about, but you never really imagine something like this could really happen. Somebody tweeted us here this morning saying, how many more guys have plans like this? Going to be tough to put the genie back into the bottle now. You know, a lot of times we see copycat-type shootings. Whether it's bombs or whatever, it almost seems like somebody gets the idea and it happens again. Do authorities worry about copycat, and especially in a case like this?
Sure, absolutely, and we have talked about it both on air and off air. And this particular incident was a little unique. When you go to an NFL game, you go to a baseball game, those are enclosed stadiums. Yeah. And everybody's, frisked coming in. I suppose it would be possible to get in there with a small weapon, but you're never going to be able to get in there with this type of weapon. This is unique in the respect that you have somebody in an elevated position. So all the things that we tell in a active shooter, is to run or hide or barricade yourself, are off the table. Mm-hmm. Because you can't run without being seen. You can't hide behind a car. You can't, crouch down somewhere and not be seen by this person. That in law enforcement and the military, one of the things we talk about is the person in the elevated position has the advantage over you because they can see everything you do.
Right.
So if you do try to hide behind something or run, there's no way to get away from it, and it's very difficult for you to see where they are, especially in this place where you have a huge wall of glass and windows where appears the 32nd floor. So this is unique in the respect that how would you prevent this from occurring? I just don't see how you could.
I do wonder. You take a Times Square, for instance, and they say that when that happens, there's high security getting into those hotels. But I've checked into a hotel in New York City, Marriott Marquis or one of the hotels just over, and you get a room and you're overlooking Times Square. I remember at one point watching a movie being made right down 10 floors below us. I have never had my luggage checked when I check into a hotel. Are we entering a new era where this becomes the vulnerability?
I think that's something they do in different parts of the world, like Israel. I think is a model. Unfortunately, in this country, one of the great things about it is our rights. One of the tough things about it to protect against is because you have these rights, is for searches. And there's been times over the years, on small levels where you have somebody and you suspect they have drugs, and all the things are pointing to, boy, they've got something on them, but you just don't have the probable cause to be able to search them, so you don't, and you have to let them walk away. And that's tough for law enforcement, and that's just, drugs. Imagine, searching for guns. And this is somebody who obviously was well prepared based on the video, watching the video and listening to the number of rounds that were fired. This is somebody that just, didn't decide, hey, right now I'm mad at something, and this is somebody who had a plan in place. He barricaded the door. He obviously had an automatic weapon. So, this is somebody who took some time to prepare. Obviously, he had all the ammo involved. A lot of shots were fired.
And and when you hear that shooting, you agree definitely an automatic weapon?
Oh, no ands, ifs, or buts. The question is the capacity of the magazine. Now, most automatics will be, say, 20 to 30 rounds. You can if you're really preparing to speed load, you could tape the magazines together upside down. It's quicker to load. Or he could have had some type of drum magazine, which would have held, can hold like 100 rounds. But It's tough to tell from the video because, remember, you're going to get a lot of echo. So what sounds like a shot could be the echo of the previous shot. So a little bit, but absolutely an automatic weapon. There's no way a human being could fire that quickly. I'm assuming he didn't have much muzzle discipline because he's just shooting into a large. It would be literally like shooting into a barrel of water. You're not aiming at anything because there's so much mass. You can just shoot, and you're going to hit people no matter what.
I'll just note again.
By the way, we're talking to Steve Hauck, who is a lieutenant with the police department in Utica and is a security person and is very well versed on situations like this. But are any of us well versed on It's like we're learning every day new ways to just injure and kill people. It's just terrible to think about.
I'll just note again that, since 6 this morning we were on this, that the uniqueness of this with the open-air concert, thousands of people below and a shooter on his perch. Do you hear anything? We've had some calls this morning on the type of weapons. I know we just got into this a bit. I think Tom earlier said something about a belt clip. Do you have any familiarity with something where you could fire off this number of shots in such quick succession? Are those type of belt clips legal? Is there anything you can tell us about what you're hearing from the gun?
No, those would not be legal. That's a military. That's what you envision when you see these military movies where the bullets themselves are side by side and they feed through a belt drive. Not exactly an easy piece of equipment to get. I suspect we're probably going to see that it was either some type of drum magazine, which looks it's circular in motion. The rounds sit side by side in a basically a big circle, and they feed into the magazine. They can hold, say, like 100 rounds. But you also might have like a 30-round magazine, because the couple of clips I listened to sound like about 35 rounds with a long gap in between.
Yeah.
So if you had a 30-round magazine, what sounds like, say, 35 or 40 rounds could be 30 rounds just with the echoes involved. And he could have had multiples, and those you can buy. So it's very possible he had 10 of them lined up, and they're not, you can change a magazine out, even if you're not great at it, in 4 or 5 seconds. Somebody skilled could do it in a couple of seconds.
On one hand, it's incredible that this has gone on. It went on for about 10 minutes, they say. The shooting went on, as some of the witnesses are saying that's what happened. On the other hand, it's a SWAT team that took this guy out. Now, this is Las Vegas, a pretty good-sized city. And there was security there, but there probably was not a SWAT team there on site. So, with that said, the fact that a SWAT team was able to get up to the 32nd floor, get inside this room and take this guy out in 10 minutes is probably pretty impressive. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, and I've been to Vegas a few times and actually got a chance to speak with a couple of Las Vegas officers when I've been there. And they're a little bit different. They always have aviation in the air all the time. They have multiple SWAT units that are, it's different like where you have like in a city like Utica or Syracuse. Right. You have essentially part-time SWAT officers. They're regular officers that are investigators or, supervisors or patrolmen, and then something happens, they get their gear, they're home, and they come in and they get their gear and they go out on the street and they activate. These guys work, that's all they do, and they work 24/7 around the clock, ready to go. So they can get anywhere. If you've been to Vegas, they can get there quickly. And the remarkable thing is that they were able to identify where this person was as quickly as they were. I suspect they probably identified it by muzzle flash, because it sounds like he was firing so much that they were able to literally, you'd see, especially at night, you'd see the muzzle flash coming out of the window. He had to have, if you've been to those Vegas, I don't know if he had either a balcony room
that's what I was wondering, or
shot
broke the window
out.
Yeah.
One of those two things had to happen, obviously.
I would think that if you're on the balcony, you are far more exposed. You would be far more exposed, because most of those balconies, I guess it depends on, I've seen them with a concrete wall protecting you from falling off, and I've also seen it where there are bars. If there are bars, you'd be very exposed, I would think.
Well, I don't think he had any intention of getting away.
Right, alive.
He knew all along that
it was going to end badly
he was there till the end.
Yeah.
So Steve, we talked about how impressive the response was from the SWAT team that was able to get to him and take him out. But kind of talk to us a little bit about what their possible plan was. I mean, you've got to imagine he barricaded the door. There's got to be the possibility of some kind of explosive. What would be a process?
Well, keep in mind, we're assuming that they went from inside and broke through a door.
Oh,
there
well,
are also
been
helicopters over top. It's very possible, Steve, and talk about this as well, that it could have been a sharpshooter from a helicopter. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's something that's changed. Really, Columbine changed that. We've talked about this as the protocol in years past with an active shooter, regardless really of where it was what they call surround and call out. So essentially you surround the location and you use bullhorns, use PAs, and you try to call them out to end the situation. That's changed. Columbine changed that. So law enforcement role now when you get these things is to immediately go to the threat and try to stop it. So there's no delay there. If officers from 5 different locations showed up from Vegas PD and Metro and all these, they would go. They would all go together. Everybody's trained the same, and they would just go and eliminate. So if they had somebody in a helicopter with with a rifle, which I'm sure they would, and they could see this person, they could see that he was armed or he was firing, they absolutely would take a shot.
Yeah. And that is the difference in trends today, right? You would talk about copycat. The trends are that people go out to they just try to kill people versus taking a hostage for some advantage the way it used to be. Right.
One of the things I find unique, which I think we'll probably see, it could take a while, is most of the balconies in those, because remember, there's not a lot of balconies in Vegas. Most of the windows it's my understanding that most of them have fairly extensive video because if people if people fall off of them, the casinos try to protect themselves and say, no, they didn't slip and fall, they jumped or whatever the case might be. So unless he shot something like that out, I suspect there's probably video of him standing up on that balcony.
Steve Hauck, with that, think about, they're saying 32 floors up, he could have been shooting at planes that were coming in. I mean,
I suppose it's probably possible.
Yeah.
Part of the problem, with Mandalay Bay itself, and that's true of most of the hotels there, is they're very high up, obviously, but they have a lot of acreage. So there's a lot of area around them. And, you're up top, and if you were down below listening to a concert, with all the noise and echoing, you would have a very hard time even deciphering the shots being fired to begin with.
Well, that explains his whole song going on.
Yeah, the song was continuing
during the whole
right. It's probably very long.
It wasn't long. Though. It wasn't 20 seconds.
Well, sooner or later you start seeing people go down and screaming, and there's a disturbance. I mean, eventually, it was probably what they saw more than what they heard.
Right.
Exactly.
All right.